Well, you know, there's the rest of the story, Buzz, about that flight. There were two things that impressed me about that flight. One was kind of biblical. When we were heading down to the Red Sea, I was thinking of Moses and parting the Red Sea, and I said, my God, that seemed to be such an easy job. It's just a tiny little sliver. You know, I can see how they were able to get across. So, but the other part of it was Buzz had some fish for dinner the night before, and it didn't agree with him at all. So he had some problems, obviously, and I guess it was a little problem with diarrhea. Huh? Yeah, I can do the graphic here. And you know, you could
don't hold back now. You've let the cat out of the bag.
So you know how that can burn you pretty badly. So Buzz was on that mission. There was nothing that could stop us, and he just pressed on and acted as professionally as he always did. And I know that he was in tremendous discomfort in that seat, and he did the job. And I've just got such incredible respect for him and what he's done, not only for the program and the time I flew with him, but what he's done with the Air and Space Museum and all the missions and tours, Herb Kelleher and all these other folks that he's taken through to give them some appreciation for wherever the AGN is today, where it's come and where it's going. So, Buzz, thank you.
I have to do the Paul Harvey, because I wish you could have heard unfortunately the diarrhea occurred during the first refueling off Lions End. So then we have a quick discussion. Well, you know, if you don't change a baby's diaper, it survives. So I think we can do another 8 hours. Well, the tankers knew about it. So we pressed on. And to be in this program, you have to have a good sense of humor. Not only were we type A personalities, but we were big practical jokers. So John and I finished this mission, come in, like I said, we were so happy to, you know, see the whole crowd. But what he didn't tell you is the vice wing commander is at the bottom of the ladder, and they've taken a black SR-71 and they painted it brown. And they've created a certificate for me for the first Mach 3 turd. And in front of 150 of our closest associates, they have a little presentation. Needless to say, the suit went into major repair.
It's amazing, all these years. John and Buzz touched on the discipline that's required to fly this aircraft, and even a normal mission. Things you don't think about that are part of the operation or part of the process. Sometimes, once you close the faceplate and start breathing 100% oxygen, you're going to do that for 45 minutes before you start the acceleration phase. You do that to get all the oxygen out of your blood, or I'm sorry, the nitrogen out of your blood. Don't want to you like
That's John's problem.
I did have one flight where the oxygen in the blood was a problem. So you close that faceplate on your helmet and you don't open it until you shut the engines down. That's what we were taught. Even if while flying, it itches right here so bad you can't stand it. And I remember taking the food tube probe, sticking it through the hole, which you can barely get into your mouth, and squeeze the tube food into your mouth. That probe won't reach up here. You know, I tried as hard as I could. So just the discipline of willing that away, and you know, you're so focused on what you're doing, but this distraction is something you just have to overcome and throw it away. And a lot of other uncomfortable moments during a long flight. John Mancy, my backseater, and I had a long mission out of Kadena. In 1987, we were tasked to go to the Persian Gulf and take target runs during the Iran-Iraq War. And that was a 11.2 hour mission with 5 air refuelings. Because of the length of the mission, they had to stretch those air refueling tracks. Normally they're about 300 miles long. They stretched these to 500 miles each. So we'd be further downstream when we came off fully fueled. When we got to the South China Sea, the weather was so bad in those refueling tracks that we had difficulty making visual contact. I did, John didn't have forward visibility, but we typically would rendezvous with the tankers and we'd roll out. We'd continue straight ahead. They'd roll out at the turn. We'd be 1 mile behind them, 1,000 feet beneath them, and get visual contact and proceed in to the contact position. But I couldn't see the tankers that mile. So I inched on in further, and now at half a mile, 500 feet, I still can't see the tankers. There's 3 tankers there in front of me, I just can't see them. So inch it in a little bit further and finally get a glimpse of the tanker and I race into the contact position. And I'm on the boom now, I'm taking on fuel, thankfully. But I'm stuck there for the whole length of the track. I can't relax, I can't get off the boom and fly on the wingtip and relax for 15 minutes and come back in and finish refueling. I'm stuck in that contact position 12 feet beneath the tanker for an hour. And so out of the 5 refuelings and the 11.2 hour flight, I flew in that contact position for 3.5 hours total. And people who flow in formation know how challenging that is and how fatiguing that can be, and especially if you do it in such bad weather. John and I made the run into the Persian Gulf and got the tape and came back out. It urinate the last 7 hours of the flight. I've been in the suit for 13 hours. And my muscles had tightened up, I just couldn't urinate. And by the time we got back to Kadena, I was shaking. And I remember the command post came on the radio and said, hey, you guys can have the other runway for the recovery. It'll save a few minutes off the flight. And I told John, I said, we're not changing anything. I'm not doing anything different than what we planned, because I was feeling the fatigue to the point where I didn't trust myself to make that change. Change the different runway approach and frequency and so forth. I said, we're doing exactly the way we planned it. Got it in, got it on the deck, got it in the hangar, and as Buzz said, after a long, important mission like that, you got 200 people waiting there, been up for 24 hours, applauding. It's a great feeling.
Terry, you're a very humble guy, and here we're here to talk about 71, but your work with the astronauts, training them, and flying the Gulf Stream 5. Yeah, and it was shielded off so nobody could see it, but it was really the shuttle cockpit, and Terry flew the right side to train them all with commanders. And I asked Terry last night, I said, what was your most moving moment, or most traumatic moment in the program? Do you want to share it with me?
I was flying a number of aircraft for NASA and training in 38s, and I flew the Gulfstreams to fly the families to and from the Cape for launches and landings. And I'd flown the Columbia families. I'd flown the Columbia crew to the Cape because the weather was too bad for them to fly their T-38s down for that launch. And I'd flown their families down for the launch. And I flew their families down for the landings, for that landing. And I was standing on the ramp out by the runway at Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy Space Center, and I'm waiting for the shuttle to come across the threshold for the landing. And I'm waiting, and I look at my watch, and it's 2 minutes after landing time. And I knew that you can't be late on a shuttle landing. The toughest part was taking their families back to Houston.